Okay, so you guys bombarded me with requests to review the 9070 non-XT, but I really didn't understand why. Because at least here in Lithuania, no one is buying this GPU. Like literally out of the over 700 PCs we've sold this year, I have sold a PC with an RX 9070 only once. And that was only because I recommended it to a customer and not because they wanted it in the first place. Like literally in my head, I thought that this GPU is like the RX 6800 of GPUs, because there are not many of them, and at least here no one is talking about them, and I'll talk about it more later. But first, let's answer the question: should you buy an RX 9070? And I think that this review cannot be done without the 9070's arch enemy, RTX 5070. So we'll see which is the better GPU out of the two, regardless of the price, because at least here RTX 5070s start at around 550 euros, where RX 9070s start at 600 euros. And just to put things into a perspective, RX 9070 XTs start at around 650, 670. And RTX 5060 Ti's are roughly 450, though this is, I guess, kinda meaningless, since according to your comments, in some markets 9070s are actually cheaper than 5070s. So we'll see whichever is better overall, not in terms of price. Okay, and starting off with the unoptimized slop category, we got Borderlands 4, where without any upscaling, the 5070 got slightly more FPS both on unplayable badass settings and somewhat playable 1440p high, though realistically you would be using FSR or DLSS here. So with FSR on quality, the 9070 squeezes out more FPS than the 5070 with DLSS on quality, but graphically both GPUs look very similar, so it's a tie here. On Stalker 2 though, we also see that the RX 9070 was faster with FSR on quality than 5070 with DLSS on quality, but I have to give the W to the 5070 though, because on this game specifically, it genuinely looked better than FSR. But without DLSS, the RX 9070 definitely takes the W. So it's sort of a tie once again. Now, these two GPUs seem kinda equal, right? So let me show you where the 9070 really shines. And it's Counter-Strike of all games. Cause where the RTX 5070 got a bit over 500 FPS on 1440p medium, the GigaChat 9070 thought that that number was cute. Boom! Over 600 FPS with this Ryzen 5 9600X. Though when I dropped down the resolution to 1080p, the difference wasn't as big, but the 9070 was definitely into some evil stuff with the FPS average. And I'm not even rounding numbers up, this is the actual photo of the benchmark results. But the 5070 is not giving up anytime soon, because on Call of Duty Warzone, it overpowered the 9070 fair and square. With no DLSS or other trickery, it got slightly more FPS on 1080p Extreme and 1440p Extreme preset. But then the 9070 got offended and took that personally. So it decided to once again demolish the 5070, but this time in Doom The Dark Ages. We're both on 1440p Ultra Nightmare and 1080p Ultra Nightmare. Without DLSS or FSR, the 9070 provided a noticeably better experience. Though I don't know if it's the problem with my specific 9070 or it is a problem with 9000 series GPU drivers in general, but while launching some of the games, including this Doom, I get a driver warning message, even though we're running the latest drivers, which aren't even a week old at this point, and I have used DDU to wipe all of the pre-existing drivers before installing this GPU, so it's really interesting. Otherwise, I didn't encounter any other problems and games are running perfectly fine, but I just wanted to let you know that. Now, talking about Black Myth Wukong, before even launching the game, I had a suspicion that the 5070 should be better, since Nvidia GPUs on this game seem to do better than comparable AMD cards, and I wasn't really wrong. The 9070 on 1440p very high, with FSR on 75% resolution, got slightly less FPS than the 5070 and provided actually basically the same results with no upscaling. So natively speaking, it's a tie, but when talking about the 75% resolution results, DLSS was looking more beautiful. On Marvel...
What did he say?
On Marvel Rivals, the benchmark results were super similar with a slight edge going to the 9070, but the real difference was on Siege. So Siege guys, ignore the driver error message on launch and just enjoy the superior frame rate. This GPU is genuinely a beast even on a completely maxed out settings preset. So what are the results of this matchup? Well, we see that the 5070 is slightly better in AAA games, and it does have slightly better upscaling in terms of visual quality, but the 9070 demolishes it in esports, with Siege and CS2 being the biggest outliers. Otherwise, these GPUs are insanely close. So after all, I do understand why basically no one in Lithuania is buying the 9070. Like, why should we pay 50 euros more for essentially the same performance? Of course, the 9070 has one key selling point, 16 gigs of VRAM, and that's something to consider for the future games, but for now, like literally right now, 12 gigs is enough. And by the way, talking about the 9070 XTs, we've definitely sold over 20 of these, so it's not like the 90 series GPUs are irrelevant in this market, but I think the main problem is the price in my opinion. The 5070 is just priced better, at least here, though if in your market it's the opposite, I don't see the reason to pay more for the 5070 actually. So the conclusion in my opinion is this: both GPUs are good and both have their pros and cons, so just buy whatever is cheaper. Though if they were both for the same price, I'd consider what games I'm playing the most. Like if it's the esports, 9070 is the way to go. If it's AAA games, having DLSS is nice, though 12 gigs is not nice. Anyways, thank you so much for watching guys. Cheap bastard out.